Mark Twain once said, "A person who won't read has no advantage over a person who can't read." Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll talk about 5 great books that improved my outlook towards life and in my opinion are must-reads for every individual. All of these books are not only rich in content but are also beautifully written and will keep you engaged till the very end. One of them is about history. So let's begin. So the first on the list is The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. Now, there are several exciting ideas that Tim reveals in this book, but I'll talk about 4 ideas that resonated with me the most. First, people prefer unhappiness over uncertainty. Most people will choose to work at a stable job even if it makes them unhappy without even realizing that risks are much less scarier once you take them. It also talks about how excitement is what leads to happiness. So if you're not excited about what you're doing, you really can't be happy. And this applies to your relationships as well. Second, it is better to have smaller, more achievable timeline for your goals. If you set your goal timelines to 6 to 12 months instead of, say, 5 years, you're much more likely to accomplish them. So break down your big goals into smaller chunks and then achieve those chunks of goals individually. Third is the Parkinson's law, which states that work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion. So if you start working on a project and assign a deadline of 1 month, you will take at least 1 month to complete that job. But if you had set a deadline of 25 days, your brain would have made you work in such a way that you would be able to complete that same job in 25 days itself. Obviously, this point is relevant only if you take deadlines seriously. It basically tells us to be the most productive versions of ourselves. Fourth is how Pareto's 80-20 rule applies to almost everything in our lives. 80% of the results come from 20% of our efforts, and similarly 80% of our stress comes from 20% of our activities. Now, there are certain parts of this book that might seem outdated in today's date, but the core ideas that Tim reveals in this book, especially ideas like remote work, are strikingly accurate and have never been more relevant. Next on the list is my all-time favorite, Sapiens by Dr. Yuval Noah Harari. Now, it's a pretty well-known book. It's been around for a while, you've probably even read it, but I just had to include it in the mix. Through this one book, Dr. Harari spans through the entire history of Homo sapiens. And what I love about this book is that it sort of gives you a sensible perception of the world, especially about complicated subjects like religion. It uses a mixture of science and humanities to throw an interesting light on what it truly means to be a human. Now, we are the most comfortable generation in the history of mankind, and probably that's why we tend to take certain things for granted. Like, we don't really think about how we got here as a species. But I feel that in order to truly appreciate our lives today, we need to acknowledge how we got here. And this book will help you get that perspective. It provides a condensed version of all the major historic events and uses concepts from biology, paleontology, anthropology, and even economics to explain them. It's a beautiful book and a must-read. Next on the list is The Fred Factor by Mark Sanborn. Now, this is a really small book, just over 100 pages. So if you're someone who has trouble completing books, maybe start with this one. In this book, Mark tells us the true story of his mailman Fred, who loves his job and constantly goes an extra mile handling and delivering mail. Through stories about Fred and others like him, Mark gives us 4 principles which can take us from the ordinary to the extraordinary. Now, the main takeaway from this book is that there are no unimportant jobs, just people who feel unimportant doing them. So whatever it is that you do every day, if you do it with extraordinary passion, you will be the best at your job. It's a cliche, but it's true. Fourth on the list is The Almanac of Naval Ravikant by Eric Jorgensen. So Naval Ravikant is a venture capitalist and the co-founder of AngelList. He was also one of the initial investors in companies like Twitter and Uber. Now, this is not your traditional self-help book. It's not even a traditional book for that matter. It's a compilation of all the wisdom Naval has shared over time through his blogs, podcasts, and interviews. And to clarify, it's not just about how to make money and get rich. It also talks about happiness and healthy living. Here are a few drops of wisdom from this book. First, the most important skill in this world is to be a perpetual learner. At no point in your life should you stop learning. Second, you can be truly wealthy only if you have assets that make money while you sleep. Third is this amazing quote from the book itself, and here's how it goes. Desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. That's deep. So make hard choices now so that your life gets easier in the future. There's actually an inverse relationship between short-term pleasure and long-term happiness, and it has been proven scientifically. But more on that in my next video. So make sure you subscribe to my channel. The last book that we will discuss today is The Changing World Order by Ray Dalio. Now this is a big book. I like big books, and I cannot lie. Ray Dalio is among the most successful investors the world has seen and the founder of Bridgewater Associates, which is the largest hedge fund in the world. He is known for looking at patterns in historical events and then identifying similar patterns occurring today in order to better predict how they might repeat in the future. In this book, Ray talks about short-term and long-term debt cycles. Now, this might sound boring to a lot of people, but bear with me for a few moments because this is something everyone should be aware of. A debt cycle refers to the continuous borrowing which leads to increased costs and eventual defaults. A short-term debt cycle typically lasts 5 to 8 years, whereas a long-term debt cycle lasts over 75 years. But why are we talking about debt cycles? You see, whenever a long-term debt cycle ends, it gets ugly. It changes things like the world's reserve currency and the ranking of countries by power. In other words, it changes the world fundamentally. The cycle that we are currently in started in 1944 when the US dollar became the world's reserve currency. This marked the beginning of US as the dominant world power. Prior to 1944, UK was the dominant world power. As per Ray Dalio, US has already run through 75% of this cycle, and history suggests that at this stage, it is very difficult to avoid an ugly end. But not impossible. Now, if it does end, it would lead to a transfer of world power to another country. And Ray doesn't just claim these concepts. He provides solid evidences from history to support his points. Now, it might seem like an odd book to include in this mix, but I strongly feel that everyone should have a basic understanding of how money works and how the changing world economy affects our lives. So these were the 5 books that I feel everyone should read. Each of these is unique in terms of content and writing style. Let me know your favorite books down in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit the like button. More videos like this are coming, so make sure you subscribe to my channel as well. I hope you have a great day and a bright future. See you in the next video.